For the next episode of VHS Era, as we are now covering the very first movie that we have done on I Helped Make That, with the same guy we talked to on I Helped Make That. That's right. Today we are joined by Gary K. Wolf as we now look at one of the VHSs for Roger Rabbit. And I say one because if you look at the very first Roger Rabbit VHS, it just has the movie. At least I'm pretty sure it does. There's not much to talk about, is what I mean. Except, just to watch the movie, which it's a great movie. So, not exactly knocking it for that. But because of that, we are actually going to look at another re-release of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because as anyone in the VHS era is probably aware, sometimes they would reissue VHSs over and over again. Sometimes they just reissued it because, sometimes it was an anniversary thing, and that's what we're going to look at today. In 2003, Disney re-released Who Framed Roger Rabbit on VHS and DVD for its then 15th anniversary. And I'm going to look at that with, of course, the author of Roger Rabbit, Gary K. Wolf. Now, Gary, before I introduce you, could you believe that 20 years ago, Roger Rabbit was celebrating its 15th anniversary, and now it will be like 36 this year?
I, I had no idea. I mean, I am celebrating my 36th anniversary, so I know what a significant event that is. If anybody had told me way back when I wrote this book in 1981 that there would be a movie version of it, A, and B, that people would still be talking about that movie 35 years after the movie came out, I would have said, you're crazy. You're crazy. So just overjoyed that that's the way things have worked out.
Yeah, no, what was it like when it not just came out in theaters? Because we talked about, your reaction to it coming out in theaters. But what was your reaction like to it when it first came out on VHS?
Well, interesting because Steve Spielberg controlled the distribution rights on it as the producer, and Steve was vehement about the fact that he would never release any of his movies on VHS, never. And then I don't know what happened, but he released E.T. on VHS and made a pile of money. So all of a sudden things got a little nebulous, and he said, "Well, maybe we'll do that after all." So he did indeed release Roger Rabbit on VHS. And of course, I was thrilled to death by that because I got one for free from Disney, and I was able to watch the movie whenever I wanted. The thing that made it more interesting and intriguing to me was that people were able to watch what we call the gags in the margins, and this was something that you'd never been able to do before on almost any movie until VHS came out. And a gag in the margin, um, film goes through the camera at 24 frames a second. So animators have to animate 24 drawings or cells, as they call them, to match up with that. Well, in early days of animation, way back in the Gertie the Dinosaur days with Oog and Moog the Caveman, animators discovered that they could mess around with 6 of those 24 frames, so 6/24ths of a second, and put in little visual gags. And they've been doing that forever. Betty Boop in all of the Betty Boop cartoons, whenever Betty Boop says boop boop be doop, the front of her dress falls down and she reaches over and puts it back up again, 6 frames. So the animators on Roger Rabbit wanted to continue that long-standing tradition of humor. So they put a ton of gags in the margins in the movie. Well, of course, nobody's ever going to see them because it's only going to be shown in theaters. And yeah, the projectionist can look at it frame by frame and can find it, but nobody else is going to see it. And then all of a sudden it comes out on VHS. Now it's tough on a VHS because you can't be that precise. Remember, this is 6/24 of a second. So you can't be that precise. But on a DVD, you can go frame by frame and you can catch these. And so when the VHS came out, the first thing that started happening was I started hearing from people about all these gags in the margins, which I knew about, but I didn't know anybody else did. And eventually some people started playing the VHS like a video game, going through and finding them and compiling a list of all the gags in the margins. So that was kind of special for me because it was really a lot of fun, and B, it showed people were paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when it came to the 15th anniversary VHS and DVD, though, did they tell you beforehand that they were going to re-release it on VHS and DVD for its 15th anniversary?
No, that's way above my pay grade. I don't get involved in the releases of DVDs and VHSs and when that happens. I mean, that's totally Disney. Just like I don't approve every single piece of Roger Rabbit merchandise. There are other people who can do that far better than I can do it. And releasing DVDs and VHSs is something that Disney does a whole lot better than I do. I do books,
Yeah. But when it did come out for its 15th anniversary, when it was re-released onto VHS and DVD for its 15th anniversary, what was your reaction?
Well, I was, I was delighted because it opened it up basically to a whole new generation. What I found was, my fans, my fan base, the people who write me letters and come to see me when I go to shows and sign autographs, my fan base. When the movie first came out, my fans were everybody from grade school kids up to older people. I had a whole range, and then as time passed, the age crept up because nobody could see it anymore. And then when it came out for the first time on VHS, all of a sudden the people who had seen it before watched it again. And what they started doing was using it as a babysitter. They would put it on for their kids. And so all of a sudden, the age of my fan base dropped again. And when I started doing autographing shows, I had kids again. I had kids from grade school on up. And that's happened with every release, the 30th anniversary, the special Blu-ray edition. Every time they release a new edition, the age of my fan base drops because people use it as a babysitter.
Yeah, and it's on Disney Plus, so
Yeah.
people are probably, using it as a babysitter as we speak. Someone probably is putting it on for their kids right as we speak. I know it was like actually free on YouTube for a while, and
Yeah.
and they were probably also using it, you know, as a babysitter then. But let us now watch not the movie itself, but the 2003 VHS and see whether we should skip to the previews, skip through the previews, or stay through the feature. Ah, the iconic Touchstone logo. I miss that old studio.
Coming soon to theaters.
So we were actually talking about on the episode for South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, how Paramount really just put on white letters on a black background and had a narrator boldly say, "Coming soon to theaters." And we were like, other studios have done a lot more for that logo. Or and one example we gave was Disney. And that's the logo we're talking about.
Mhm. Yeah, that's pretty typical. I mean, um, I think at one point, I think there was one guy who was doing all of that in a world where cartoon characters are real. A human detective gets into a triangle of trouble. I think there was one guy who was doing that for all the studios, and um, I don't I actually don't know where that stuff comes from. I don't think it's done by, I don't think it comes out of the creative department. I think it comes out of the advertising department. And the advertising department uh, and I'm an old advertising guy myself, but the advertising department is sometimes not as creative and radicalized as the movie department. So they sometimes don't come up with the most innovative, creative kinds of intros that would happen if you turned it over to, say, the animators.
The Gracie Mansion. 52 bedrooms. 67 bathrooms. 999 ghosts. And one unsuspecting guest who will come face to face with every one of them. The Haunted Mansion.
So, I know that movie is very disappointing for fans of Haunted Mansion. Okay, to give a little what's the word I'm looking for? Clarification for any younger people watching this. You might remember that last year Disney made a Haunted Mansion movie with literally everyone in Hollywood. Rosario Dawson, Danny DeVito, Jared Leto, Owen Wilson, who else was in that movie? Tiffany Haddish, Jamie Lee Curtis, etc., etc., etc. And from what I've heard, that movie's okay. I've never seen it. I have seen this one, which is the Eddie Murphy version. Back in 2003, they made a Haunted Mansion movie with Eddie Murphy. And a lot of people were disappointed. They felt it was too comedic, too light. They wanted something a little scarier, darker, from my recollection of why people didn't like it. Again, I saw it once. I remember liking it okay, but I really haven't thought about it since. But divorcing my or anyone's thoughts from the final product, that wasn't a very appealing teaser. I mean, the graphics just haven't held up at all. It looks very much like a video game. The music doesn't really fit the imagery. And it's also misleading because they say there's one visitor, Eddie Murphy, but if you watch the actual movie, it's actually Eddie Murphy and his family who are the visitors, not just Eddie Murphy. So that's my thoughts on this teaser. Gary, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I I blotted out the fact that this teaser was even on the VHS. So um, I um, it's an interesting thing to have an Eddie Murphy movie advertised on Roger Rabbit VHS, because Eddie Murphy was one of the people that we hired to do Eddie Valiant. And he was hired because he was bankable, and nobody knew if the Roger Rabbit movie was going to be any good. But after a while, after a short while filming, it became obvious he wasn't going to work because he wanted to be funnier than the Toons. So we had to rewrite the script to make Eddie Valiant funnier than the Toons. So it's kind of interesting to see him come full circle. But my ideal my problem with trailers. I have two problems with trailers. Number one is the trailer that tells you too much. You see the trailer and it goes start to finish. Hey, these orphans are lost in the Alaskan wilderness, and a bear comes along and helps them out. And boom, they find their way back to Aunt Matilda. And you say, why do I want to see the movie? It tells me the whole story. That's my one problem. This one is my other problem. It doesn't tell you enough. I mean, why would I want to see this movie? I guess if I'm a huge Eddie Murphy fan, sure. If is it a horror movie? Is it a comedy? Is it a family movie? Well, obviously, it doesn't seem to be a family movie because it doesn't say anything about his family. So, and again, I don't think that these trailers are. I think they're done by advertising people, and they're not done by creative people. I don't think Bob Zemeckis, who directed the Roger Rabbit movie, is out there directing trailers for other movies. There's somebody at a much lower level who's doing this, and I honestly don't know who that is. But yeah, I think they really blew it on this one.
Yeah, but before we get to the next ad or trailer or whatever, what would you rather do? Watch Roger Rabbit try to perform Shakespeare and try to be serious at it, or watch this trailer again?
Given a choice, I'm not much of a Shakespeare buff either, but either one of them would be like pulling teeth. But I would have to go with Roger doing Shakespeare because I can't believe that wouldn't have some comedic value versus watching that trailer again. I think I've seen it all I want to.
Yeah, he may actually be funny for once when he isn't trying to be, but it would at least elicit some reaction.
Now available to own on video and DVD.
Again, nice fancy.
Knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rock.
It's Schoolhouse Rock, the 30th anniversary edition.
Schoolhouse Rock.
The DVD is coming! The DVD is coming!
Yay!
I'm just a bill.
All the classic songs that rocked your Saturday mornings are premiering on DVD for the first time ever.
Wow! Conjunction, junction. Extra, extra.
Bonus features include audio commentaries and interviews with the creators of Schoolhouse Rock, 2 fun-filled games, and an all-new song performed by the original cast.
I'm gonna send your vote to college when you vote for president.
Disney presents Schoolhouse Rock, the 30th anniversary edition, featuring the entire collection of Schoolhouse Rock songs. Now available to own for the very first time, right on DVD. Also available on VHS, the best of Schoolhouse Rock.
I mean, I remember, when I was a kid and I was watching one Saturday morning, they'd always put Schoolhouse Rock shorts, in between the shows. So I'm aware of some of them, like Conjunction Junction, What's Your Function? I'm just a Bill, just an ordinary Bill, probably the one song everyone remembers from that show.
Mm.
It's mostly a regular series trailer, but I'm not necessarily blaming the actor, probably just the direction he was given. I think they directed him to sound like the way they told him to sound excited and try to sell this DVD to the audience. It sounded a little forced. It sounded a little like he was he was kind of going overboard on being excited. It's like, hey kids, it's Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
Aren't you? Isn't that cool? It's like, okay, dude, dial it back. Schoolhouse Rock. It's just kind of something people watched in between the cartoons they really wanted to see. No one's this passionate about Schoolhouse Rock, except the people who made it.
I agree. I've got a, actually, I like this one better than I like the other one, because at least it tells you what you're getting. It's like going into the supermarket and seeing the ads, and you know what's in the can. It's full of pork and beans. Yeah, I like that. I like that better. My problem with this one is twofold. Number one, exactly what you said. That guy was like the old snake oil salesman who used to stand on the wagon and sell the snake oil. Hey, this will cure cancer. This will cure your warts. This will cure your infertility. This will cure whatever ails you. He had that kind of aura about him. He was trying too hard. He was really pushing this, and made me feel like, wow, is this really that good? Nothing's that good. The other thing is, this was on a VHS for Roger Rabbit. I don't know what the market for Schoolhouse Rock DVD video is. I don't know if they're going for the kids, or if they're going for the parents to buy it for the kids. I don't know. The message is a little muddled. I mean, I can't remember how much VHS cassettes cost. I think they were pretty expensive back in the day. I think they were 15 or 20 bucks. Plus you had to have a VHS player. So I don't know how many kids could, pool their allowance money and go down and buy a VHS of Schoolhouse Rock. So it had to be something that a parent was going to buy for a kid. So maybe it was intended to persuade kids to, hound their mothers and fathers incessantly until they went out and bought them a Schoolhouse Rock DVD. I don't know. It seems like a kind of a weird way to market that video. I would think that a Schoolhouse Rock video DVD would be better marketed on a Disney classic animated feature VHS, like Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella or something like that. That's more likely to get kids rather than Roger Rabbit, which is kind of an adult movie.
Yeah, but even, saying that, I don't even know if Schoolhouse Rock really needs a trailer, because I feel like Schoolhouse Rock, besides just, something kids watch in between what they're really excited to watch, I feel like it's also something that teachers would use to sort of sum up their lessons.
Possible.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, possible.
yeah, it's like kind of like an educational tool. So it's almost like watching like an ad for a home ec video
Yeah, exactly.
on a
Yeah,
on a tray on the VHS for a big Hollywood film.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's a marketing thing. I mean, who are they going after as a market with that trailer? And is the Roger Rabbit video the best place for it? I don't personally think so. I think I don't know what else Disney was releasing at the time, but I can't believe that they didn't have something that was more kind of Roger Rabbity, a little more adult, yet still funny, that they could have put an ad for instead of that. I don't know.
Yeah. But even though the trailer was a little better, but still not very good, what would you rather do? Watch the trailer again or change Baby Herman's diaper? Adult
Oh,
baby Herman's diaper.
baby Herman, when he fills his diaper, he
Ew.
fills his diaper with the finest Cuban cigars. And you don't want to think too much about it when they light them. So I would much rather change his diaper than watch that again.
Yeah, I'll have to disagree. This time, I think I'd watch that again. I mean, there'd be the criticism, there'd be the constant. I'm not sure I really want to think about that more. I don't even know why I asked that. I guess I'm just a sociopath.
Well, if you want to watch it again and poke fun at it, hey, I'm there with you. That's good with me.
Rated E for everyone.
Okay, so I'm not a huge gamer, but I'll admit that's probably the best ad we've had so far, the best thing we've had so far. And it's probably the one ad that if you think about it makes the most sense because Kingdom Hearts is known for being like this big Disney crossover game, and it's being put on like Roger Rabbit, which is known for being this huge crossover, not just between Disney characters, but just in general animated characters as well. So it is kind of smart that they put a trailer for one big crossover, for one piece of media that's a big crossover in between, a movie we know is this big crossover. And just in general, I feel like that trailer kind of gets it right, that it doesn't tell too much, but just tells you enough to get you drawn in and get you excited. Like, oh, there's this big action game and it's featuring all your favorite characters. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, of all three trailers, that's the one that makes the most sense on a Roger Rabbit VHS because it ties in. I mean, it's got animation and it's exciting and it's got a lot of drama and it's got a lot of motion. And you know, changing baby Herman's diaper or watching Roger Rabbit do Shakespeare or watching this one, I'd watch this one in a heartbeat because it would be kind of fun. I didn't see all of the characters the first time through. I saw Pinocchio, I saw Donald Duck, but I think it would be fun to watch this one a couple of more times, maybe even in slow motion, to pick out some of the other Disney characters that are in there. I thought that one was a lot of fun, and I thought it made sense as a trailer on the Roger Rabbit movie. Yeah.
No, yeah, so now we both enjoy this one, but I'll ask this question again, another question. What would you rather do? Watch this trailer by your lonesome, or watch this trailer with Jessica Rabbit and Betty Boop?
I can't believe you could actually ask me that question with a straight face. I mean, there's no question I'd rather watch it with Jessica and Betty. They're my two girlfriends. And in fact, we have often gotten together on long, cold, wintry nights and played Kingdom of Hearts. So, what can I tell you?
Oh, Jessica's a gamer?
Absolutely. The best.
Coming right up after the movie is a special bonus program. Be sure to catch more hilarious Roger Rabbit antics in the tune short, Tummy Trouble.
Uncle Roger will take care of you, and everything's going to be just fine. Not like last time!
Hey, where you going?
Oh, big bottle.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun. short. If you've ever wanted to see the opening scene just as its own thing, that's definitely a great venue to do so. And they actually made three of these shorts. They made this, Trail Mix Up, and Roller Coaster Rabbit. The only two things I'll point out is that when Herman is looking at the bottle, you know what he's really looking at. Let's not let's not kid ourselves, especially knowing him. Um, number two,
But in all fairness, who wouldn't? Um, I would too. So
yeah. Number two, I kind of wish they played it before the movie instead of after the movie, and I feel like it's kind of a missed opportunity they didn't, because that's when they used to play cartoons, which was before the movie, not afterwards.
yeah, but if you look at the movie is kind of already set up with a cartoon at the beginning, because it does in fact have a cartoon at the beginning where Roger winds up getting hit on the head by the refrigerator and sees stars, and the director says, "Hey, I'd rather see birds." So that actually already happens, and then it already goes to from cartoon to live action. And I think putting this in front of it would have been overkill, gilding lily, and um, it would have given away uh, the big surprise that these are cartoon characters living in a real world. Um, this cartoon of the three, my favorites in order are Roller Coaster Rabbit, this one, and Trail Mix Up. I think Roller Coaster Rabbit is one of the finest cartoons ever made. I think it holds its own with anything that Warner Brothers made in the 40s and the early 50s. But this one is a close second. And just looking at this, not from a yucks point of view or a humor point of view or an action point of view, but from an artistic point of view, this movie is just artistically gold. The thing that is amazing in this, and you'd have to watch it 2 or 3 times before you finally realize it. When you look at the cartoon characters in the hospital, especially, you see their reflections in the floor. And I can't tell you how much extra effort that took in the animation department, when it would have been very simple to just do the floor non-reflective, and you wouldn't see the characters in the floor. The other thing is, in one scene, Roger Rabbit is in a room with a checkerboard floor, which is the same as the kitchen that he was in the cartoon that preceded the movie. That is probably one of the most difficult things in the world to animate, because remember, 24 frames a second. So every 24th of a second, you have to do a new cell. Every 24th of a second in a floor with black and white tiles, the perspective changes on every single tile. So you have to animate a different perspective on every single tile every 24th of a second. Incredibly difficult thing to do. And yet here they just do it, and you didn't even notice it. Nobody notices it, but it's just absolutely brilliant. In the one scene where there's not a reflective floor, when baby Herman crawls into the operating room, the floor isn't reflective, but in that one you see his shadow. So just marvelous job of animation. Tom Cito was one of the animators, and I know him quite well. His wife Pat did some of the in-between work, and he was the one who animated a lot of the scenes in the operating room, the scene in the wheelchair. Just brilliant work.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point, and also some of the background, not just like, just from an artistic point, it's great, and that was like a really cool insight. But even then, like, just getting back to the humor of it all, some of the background gags are fun, like seeing Mickey Mouse's X-ray.
Yeah, and if you notice, that you see Mickey Mouse's head X-rayed, and then a couple of scenes later, when Roger winds up swallowing the rattle, that picture where the Mickey Mouse head was is replaced with a picture of a peanut, and it says rabbit brain. Same position. This, remember I talked about gags in the margins and the many gags that animators put in. This is a cartoon that's well worth your time to go through frame by frame, because there are so many gags in this movie that you just do not see. When they're going through those doors, urology, proctology, zoology, biology, and then the last door they go through is Burbank. When the explosion goes off, if you freeze frame that, you'll see that the explosion goes off and they're coming out of the Disney studio and going up into the sky. And if you watch this frame by frame, you'll have a lot of fun, because there's a lot of clever things hidden in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And now it's time to rate it. Now I know what your answer is going to be when you say stay through the previews or skip to the feature. So I guess instead of asking literally that, I would ask, did you enjoy the ads or not? Personally, the cartoon at the end is very fun. The Kingdom Hearts ad is fun, but the first two are not great. The Haunted Mansion trailer is not great. The Schoolhouse Rock trailer is not great. So I don't think the one Kingdom Hearts ad is enough to really sit through even these 3-minute series of ads. So I would just say, just fast forward and go to the movie.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I'm a big previews guy. I love it when DVDs and in the old days VHSs had previews, because I loved watching previews. And I also often got exposed to movies that I didn't know existed, and would go look at. I didn't think these previews really literally showed me much. They were not interesting. They didn't tell me enough about the movie. They didn't whet my appetite to see the movie, play the game, buy the VHS. So I have to agree with you 100%. Skip the previews, go to the movie.
Yeah, and then stay for the cartoon.
And stay for the cartoon, yes.
And
exactly.
speaking of the cartoon, I can't believe I almost forgot to ask you the last question. What would you rather do? Just watch the cartoon, or watch the cartoon with Roger, Herman, Jessica, and the producer, as Roger and Jessica enjoy the cartoon and Herman and the director bicker back and forth about everything they thought the cartoon did wrong?
Well, that's I'm gonna turn that question right back on you, because I have watched this with Roger, Jessica, the producer, and the director, and I have heard them argue about, hey, you should have you should have hit your mark on that. You missed your mark. Hey, what was it with that accent? So I've already done that, but I'd be more than happy to do it again.
Wait, did you watch it with Herman too? Because you didn't mention him.
Oh, I watched it with Herman too. Yes, Herman was underneath the chair, probably looking up Jessica's dress. I know he's a hard guy to keep track of.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything that you want to plug?
Well, you can go to my website, www.garywolf.com, and you can check out all my books. My books are now, all my Roger Rabbit books just came out on audio. So you don't have to read anymore. You can listen to them. And I'm very happy they came out on audio, because before, when somebody wanted to listen to them, they would call me up and I'd read it to them over the phone. So this saves me a lot of time. There's also my new Jessica Rabbit novel, which just came out, called Jessica Rabbit's Serious Business. And it's an origin story. It talks about how Jessica started out as a poor shop girl and eventually became Jessica Rabbit. Where do tunes come from? How Toontown came to be. Interesting thing, and I'm not giving anything away because this is obvious in the first chapter of the book, but in the book, Jessica is human. So it's an interesting book. It's gotten a lot of good reviews, and it's very enjoyable. So go to GaryKWolf.com. I don't know, GaryWolf.com. Just www.GaryWolf.com and take a look. Buy my stuff. Buy in bulk. Makes a perfect birthday, wedding, and anniversary presents.
Okay. Well, that was it for VHS era. But next time, you know what's coming up, everyone. May the 4th be with you. That's right. We're looking at a bunch of Star Wars VHSs next time.